Hi, thanks for downloading our WIP calculator. In this video, I'm going to run you through how to use this calculator. So first up is our grey cells. Our grey cells are the cells that we want to be inputting data into. Anything coloured or left white, we don't need to touch. Our job code or name, that's simply whatever reference you're using in your project management or your accounting software to allocate your job data to. Job description could be the property name or an address, whatever you're using. Getting into the numbers, so contract value, this is your contract value. So again, assuming this is probably a fixed contract for this calculator. So contract value is excluding GST, so we want to remove the GST. Any variation, so in this example, we've got the contract that's already started and we had some variations along the way. I'll get into that a bit later. So job budgeted subcontractors and materials and job budgeted direct wages. These two items are basically from our takeoff, what we've estimated to cost us to complete this project. Once we've entered in those items there, the contract value and our budgeted costs, we get a quick little snapshot in green here of what we are expecting to be our gross profit on this project, what our margin is, and what our markup is. There is a significant difference between margin and markup. If you're unfamiliar with these terms, I encourage you to reach out to me and I'm happy to sit down and go through that with you. In our next block of data, we have our costs to date. So this is, we've started the project, we're running at the point in time that we're recording our WIP adjustment. What are the costs to date that we have incurred? Now direct costs, that's our subbies and materials. We can, if we're not entering the data ourselves, we would typically get this data from our accountant or bookkeeper. It's important we get a detailed list of what those costs are included and not just the total, so that you can run your eye over it. And the reason you need to be checking that at that date is because we may have invoices that we haven't received yet or allocated. So we might know that we've incurred a subcontractor or a cost that they haven't issued the invoice at the time of us preparing this WIP adjustment, and therefore it's not captured by the bookkeeper or the accountant yet. Direct wages should be pretty straightforward to be able to access that information. Again, provided we are allocating our wages to site or to projects in our software. Project overruns, that could be costs that we haven't accounted for or variations along the project. So going back to what I said earlier, so if we're incurring some costs for some variations and we have those variations approved, we enter the approved sale contract value into our contract variations tab. Once we've entered in all our costs, this calculator will then give us our adjusted forecasted profit and loss. So in the green we had our original, now we've got our adjusted. So through the project overruns and variations, we've actually reduced our gross profit from 96k to 66k, and likewise our percentages have adjusted. In this light blue here, in this light blue here, this is our WIP adjustment calculator. The final piece of the puzzle that we need to be able to calculate our percentages and dollar adjustment is our progress invoices issued to date. So these are invoices that we've sent out to our client. Once we have this data here, the WIP calculator will automatically calculate our WIP percentage and our WIP adjustment. What this percentage represents, so this 61%, based on the costs we've inputted into our WIP calculator, is what we're estimating to be our job completion percentage. Now, you may look at that and go, okay, well, looking at site and looking at sort of where things are at, I believe we're only at 55%. So it's a little check there to say, okay, where there's big difference in what we're calculating to be completed to what we're actually completed, and alarm bell should trigger to enable us to then go, right, we need to look at this in more detail and more analysis to see what is happening on this project. This 64 grand here represents the contract value as the difference between what we've invoiced to what we haven't invoiced at 61% of that contract value. So this 340k here, which is simply the 276 plus the 64, represents 340k, which is 61% of our contract value. And that also represents our WIP adjustment. So what we're saying there, by having a positive 64k there, a positive number there, we're bringing that income into our financials. We've incurred the costs to get the project to this level, but we haven't yet been able to invoice that, and that could be a number of reasons why. We haven't completed a stage or met a criteria for issuing an invoice. Just under, with this project here, we see that we've got 0% completed and a negative 80k. This could represent a deposit that we've collected, but we haven't yet started that project, and so we've got a negative WIP adjustment because we want to take that 80k out of our financials because we haven't actually started the job. It's work that we still need to complete, and it could give us a false sense of security if we leave it in there as far as our overall company performance. Now to just quickly, again, go over those steps again, but let's enter some data in. So our job name or code, again, whatever you're using, if it's a number or if it's a name that you allocate to your jobs or projects. In this case, I'm just going to go with St Kilda. Our job address is 181 St Kilda Road. Contract value, 500k. Oops. Well, we don't have any variations yet. We're just entering this as a job where we've just signed the contract for. So our budgeted subcontractors and materials, 300k and 100k in direct wages. Again, direct wages, we want to include director wages, any project management, anyone that's going to be directly working on that project. The calculator will then give us our budgeted profit and loss. Our budgeted gross profit and margin and markup percentages. At this stage, we've got a signed contract, so it's likely that we've received a deposit. So we go and enter that deposit in to our progress invoices issued. So again, we've got a negative amount there. We haven't started that job yet. So if we were recording that WIP as at this current stage, we would be taking that deposit that we've issued and most likely receive payment for out of the financials because we haven't yet done any work. Let's assume now that we've started this job at St Kilda Road. To date, we've incurred 115k of direct costs. We've gone through the list. We note that there's at least 15k in subcontractors that haven't issued us an invoice yet, so we'll enter those in there. We go through and we get our direct wages associated with that job, and we're at about 30 grand there. Gives us our total costs, total estimated costs to date incurred in delivering the project to whatever stage it's at. Let's assume we don't have any project overruns, and we have issued 125k in progress invoices. So what our calculator is then telling us is that we have, based on the cost that we've incurred, we've completed the job to 40%, and we're owed about 75k of that contract value based on 40% less what we've actually invoiced. Again, you might look at that job and say, hey, yeah, we're about 40% 40% complete. No red flags. We don't need to look into that job any further. So what I'm not going to cover off in this video, so this is then calculated a WIP adjustment. What I'm not covering off is how to actually record that adjustment. The reason why I'm not covering that off in this video is because depending on what software you're using will determine how you record that. And what I'm happy to offer is if you're at this stage and now you're ready to record, to reach out and I can sit down with you, go through any questions you have on the calculator, and then also give you a step-by-step process on how you would record it using your software. In order to reach out to me, I've provided some quick links down here, so you can book a meeting with me directly by clicking this. It's a half an hour meeting, video meeting, not required to be face-to-face or in the office. And I've also done some links to join our mailing list, that's for emails, and follow us on Instagram. We release content on a weekly basis, specifically for builders, and so if you want to be able to access that content without having to search for it and just be updated, I recommend subscribing to our newsletter or following us on Instagram, whatever your preference is. Thanks for listening and good luck with your WIP calculating. Speak soon.